Hey, I hope you're having a good day. This is Elan, and today I've got Carrie with me. And to give Carrie a quick introduction, Carrie is an award-winning holistic therapist and coach with over 20 years experience in the work of lifestyle and wellness using healing modalities such as reflexology, EFT, aromatherapy, and mostly clinical hypnotherapy and NLP now to help clients heal and remedy the root cause of their issues, ailments, fears, and phobias. Carrie has helped thousands of men, women, and children worldwide overcome a wide range of mental, physical, and emotional situations with natural healing modalities from her holistic toolbox. Carrie Swain, very welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm really well. The sun is shining. It's Friday. It's bank holiday. There's nothing to complain about.
Good stuff. Nice. It's nice and sunny here too. I just went out for a quick walk, but no bank holiday in Ireland, unfortunately. But you've got 3 bank holidays in May for this year in the UK, right?
Yeah, I think we've also had 3 in the last few weeks. So yeah, but some of us still work.
Yeah, it's such a hard thing to juggle, isn't it? When you're self-employed, it's like, okay, there's an extra day off, but it's really like I need to cram 5 days of work into 4 days.
Yeah, I can't complain. I'm getting good at the balance. I'm getting quite good at the balance, so it's always a work in progress.
Good stuff. And I was really looking forward to speaking with you today because I'm really interested to find out more about like hypnotherapy and stuff like that, because the way that I've always thought about hypnotherapy is like I used to watch Little Britain a lot when I was younger. So there's always that scene where he's like 3, 2, 1, back in the room. So hypnotherapy for me has always had that association, which is, I know, really stupid. So I'm really interested to find out like how does hypnotherapy work, and like how do you like approach things with everybody that you work with?
Okay, so if I basically give you an analogy how we are as humans, and I always use the iPhone as an analogy. So when you buy a brand new iPhone, it's useless to you. You need to plug it into a computer or a laptop for it to download the apps so you can work it. So you can go on your Facebook, your LinkedIn, those are programs for your iPhone. So when we are born, we're a blank canvas. The baby is born and they have no apps. So we need to plug into something to download our apps, our programming, and we plug into a family unit. So we learn our behaviors, our beliefs are downloaded from our surroundings. Now, if you are born into a chaotic, dysfunctional family with loads of trauma and chaos and bad habits and addictions, what do you think that child, that baby, is going to grow up to be like? So this is where we have to unlearn everything that we've been taught in our younger years to kind of self-soothe, put some common sense into what's going on in our life, to heal the trauma, because we all have trauma. For example, I had a session a few months ago and I was going through a bit of a rough time, maybe 6 or 7 months ago. And I thought, right, I need to correct this, and straight to hypnotherapy because I'm a patient person. I want it done and dusted. Straight to hypnotherapy, went to a colleague, and it's the emotion that we feel that is the trigger. So not events, it's the emotions. So she said, when was the very first time you felt like this? And actually it was birth, it was being born. So I had this flash image of me being born when being all cozy in the womb for 9 months, and then I'm out there and I was like, ugh! And it was lack of support. So my emotional body had linked to the lack of emotional support that I was experiencing 7 months ago to the day that I was born. That is how amazing our brain, our body, our psyche is. It had locked it into my nervous system, and a situation 7 months ago in my early 40s had been triggered. So when I work with a client, I need to close down their chatterbox thinking analytical brain. And I do that in a meditation. So put them into hypnosis, into a nice, lovely, relaxed state, feeling good. The chatterbox thinking brain closes down and the subconscious mind opens up. The subconscious mind has no common sense. It takes things very literally. It has got no sense of humour. So if I was to say to you, say if you were a smoker and you came to me for stopping smoking, and I said to you, look at that packet, look at this person's lungs on the front of this packet of cigarettes. In your conscious, everyday thinking brain, you'll bat it off and you'll just go, that's not going to happen to me. But once the subconscious is open up, I can show you that cigarette packet, or I can tell you what's going to happen. Your subconscious mind takes things very literally. And that is why I get results. So they come and have a nice relaxing meditation, open up the subconscious. And basically what I'm doing is I'm reprogramming the apps. I'm deleting the apps and reinstalling them. So if you think of me like a mechanic, I open up the hood, tinker about with what's going on, put it down, and the car works perfectly.
Nice. Yeah, it's a really good analogy to use. And yeah, I think the programming, when you explain it like that, it's kind of easy to comprehend, because, most of us have computers and phones nowadays, and they all come with a certain programming and they do certain things. So yeah, I always, like, when you said that, I was thinking of, like, the film The Matrix.
Yeah.
Because, I always think that's a really good analogy of how it's just like, we're programmed to think and do certain things, but a lot of us don't realize that it does actually go back to our inner child. Like I'm reading a book on that exact topic. I'm on like chapter 2 or 3 at the moment. And, it's amazing how when you have all of these experiences or, traumas, and obviously we can talk more about trauma. Trauma doesn't have to be, you're in a war, or, some really bad thing happened to you, someone was murdered or something. Trauma can be small things, or things that you might think are insignificant, but it's amazing how, like, as adults, we're kind of, all of that trauma or things that we've gone through as a child, we've locked away in our unconscious or our subconscious mind. So it's really cool topic.
I'll give you an example of, we always presume that trauma is massive, like you've been in the military, you've seen a few things, or you have got divorced, or there's been child abuse. If you think, most of my clients, when I regress them and we find out where some of the trauma comes from, a lot of the time it could be left at nursery. Now, if I had my time again, that I would not leave my baby with a stranger at nursery. What am I doing to her? I mean, I know we all have to work and we all have to get on in life, and it's good for them to be independent and learn how to be independent. But there is a massive amount of clients that it's their first day at school, it's nursery, it's in their playpen or their cot, and they're crying at 1-year-old trying to get mum's attention and she's on the phone. Our emotional intelligence develops so much quicker than our like cognitive intelligence. So when a child is experiencing trauma, be that, say, let's use the nursery, abandonment, okay, it locks in the nervous system. So their body will be flooded with cortisol and adrenaline, and it'll be very stressed, and maybe they'll be sick because they're crying all the time. That locks in unless it's remedied and self-soothed, okay? You keep repeating that, and the body is so clever, the mind is so clever, that it will create illness, dysfunction, dis-ease, okay? Now, a lot of the time, we blame our parents for how we are, They're doing the best they can with what they've got, because you've got to think of their upbringing as well. So, I mean, I said something to my daughter yesterday and I cringed after, and I thought, Carrie, you shouldn't have said that. So I had to quickly counterbalance that and put that right and do better next time. We're all human, and it's all positive intent. You know, we drop our kids off at nursery because we want them to be sociable and learn skills and learn and be independent from us. But I personally would do things completely differently now I know what I know.
Mm-hmm.
But later in life, sometimes that trauma, if you're in a relationship that ends, it can activate the very first time that baby or that child has been abandoned at nursery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so many interesting topics to dig into. So the first thing that I was thinking of was like when you said, you know, about things being passed on. It's like the idea of generational trauma is something that I learned from listening to Gabor Mate's books and some of Bessel van der Kolk's books as well. And yeah, because it's very easy to get into like a victim mindset of like, oh, I am the way I am because of the way my mom or my dad or someone in my family treated me. But then when you think like, imagine what it was like for them growing up and how they were treated by their parents or their family. And because like in my family, you don't have to go too far back until literally like my grandparents' parents would have grown up in the early 1900s in Ireland, where, you know, there was a lot of abuse, you know, with like, you know, Christian Brothers schools and orphanages, and like horrible things used to happen back then. So you put yourself in like their shoes, and now imagine the type of mindset they're in when they're trying to raise their kids. Is like, I think it gives you, for me anyway, it gives me a lot more understanding of like, wow, it's like, you know, they've been through a lot of shit, and you know, it's like,
yeah, and it's cellular, and you do take it like ancestry, like you said. But I'm studying something called emotion code at the moment, which I've had myself, that's cleared things that nothing else has. And sometimes it's from generations ago, that's locked in our cells, it's in our DNA, so to speak. So it's clear stuff from great grandparents 5 generations back. And I also, I don't know how woo-woo your audience is, I believe in past lives, I believe in parallel lives, I believe in future lives, because a client slipped into a future life the other day. I was like, oh, that's not happened before. So we're infinite, but we can't process it because we're in the 3D reality, the density of Earth at the moment. But I have clients bring forward, you know, when was the first time you felt like this? And sometimes it can be not this lifetime. So whether their brain's making an analogy and creating a parallel of what they're experiencing in this life, that's fine. You don't have to believe in past lives, but it'll still remedy the issue that they're facing in this life. You know, so we could go really far out and talk about some of the things that my clients have said that actually aren't believers, even in hypnotherapy. I'm like, well, why are you here then? You know, they come back every week and like, I don't believe in this, but I've not smoked and I've not eaten chocolate and I've not drank and I've lost half a stone and I don't feel any anxiety. I'm like, all right, you keep on being a not believer then.
Nice. Yeah, there's you know, the thing is, like, as much as we know, there's still so little that we actually know and understand, you know. So it would be really you know, it would be kind of silly to say like, oh, none of that is possible, because even if you go back like 50 years ago, you know, like the iPhone or, you know, the Samsung Android wasn't possible back then, but it's possible now because we've evolved, you know. And so you can, like, for me, like, I mightn't believe in stuff like that, but I would never say that it's not possible, because I know, like, I know that there's a lot of stuff that I don't know, you know. So yeah, it's really interesting. And I was going to say about, you know, healing the inner child, like that's been a very powerful concept that's popped up for me over the last few years, because with the book that I'm listening to right now, you know, the guy who wrote it was just saying how anytime you react or you kind of do something that, you know, is you know, you're not really thinking about it, it's just something that you do without thinking, and that kind of sudden reaction, it's not really adult you, it's like the inner child you. And you're going back to that like early emotional state when you're younger, when maybe you felt threatened or abandoned, as you said, or, but it's an emotional reaction from the younger you, not the, you know, adult you.
I've been in confrontations with people, let's say on a personal level, And I've like kind of thought, what's going on here? And they are not acting like a grown adult. They're acting as their child self. So it's interesting because I'll think, oh, you're acting from a place of around 14 or a 10-year-old. I can see it now because I know what I know. And the subconscious mind absolutely loves familiar patterns of behavior. It loves habit, because back in the day when we were cavemen living in packs, if you think we had to have structure and routine to keep us alive, we needed that that certainty, like getting up at the same time, hunting in the same place. Being unfamiliar is very uncomfortable to us. That's why it's so difficult to stop smoking, stop drinking, get up at 6, do exercise. All those things are gonna be really uncomfortable because you're working with 2% willpower. 98% of your subconscious mind is driving the bus. And the subconscious needs instruction and direction. Otherwise, it's going to run amok. You're going to smoke 20 fags a day, drink a bottle of wine, eat the cake, whatever your thing is, because it's keeping you in the familiar. But not just that, you're getting the dopamine hit or the fix, let's say, from something outside of yourself to self-soothe. You're numbing out. So when I work with clients, a lot of the time, if they come for an injury, if they come with an ailment, let's say an illness, an injury, an ache, pain, a fear, a phobia, anxiety, depression, whatever that looks like to that client, how their issues, let's say, are presenting themselves, you know, a lot of people start to have really negative self-talk. Now, I always say to my clients, your subconscious is always switched on and it's always listening. So I've got a friend and I laugh at her because she's always putting memes out there about being fat, broke, single. And she's always fat, broke and single because her subconscious mind is switched on. And yes, she's really funny, but she's not helping herself. The subconscious is switched on, listening. So it will find proof that she is fat, broke and single. So we've got to be really careful. And would you speak to your children the way you speak to yourself? Like I've one client, and I'm going to do a session on this next time she comes and sees me. She'll be horrible to herself, but she's funny. But I'm like, you need to really watch how you speak to yourself. You need to watch your language, because if I tell you what, if you spoke to me like that, we won't be speaking anymore. Why are you speaking to yourself like that? And they don't earn, and this is something that's been a light bulb moment for me recently, they don't earn the signals from our body that are trying to get our attention. The trapped nerve, the sore throat, the losing the voice, the migraines, the sickness, the infertility. Our body is screaming at us because something's unresolved. It's a language, right? So once we open up the subconscious, and most people don't know where it's coming from, that's why they're so frustrated, and that's why they're going to the doctor and banging their head against a brick wall because they're not getting anywhere, because these are just suppressants, what we're prescribed. Once we tap into that, often that ailment, that ache, that pain, it just remedies itself because it's got our attention. The inner child has been screaming at us, and actually connecting to your body. So I know a lot of people will take a pill if they've got a headache, or they'll go and have an operation, or they'll have something removed. And I know that this is necessary in a lot of cases, but if you strip it back to basics, we have everything that we need inside of our mind and our body and on planet Earth in the way of herbs and natural medicine, if we try really hard to remedy most things. We've just forgotten who we are. And that isn't an accident.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's, you know, when I started doing more like therapy and counseling, and especially diving into Carl Jung's work and looking at, you know, the light and shadow, or, you know, ego and different concepts like that. So I think it'd be good to delve into like the subconscious side of things, because I know when I started learning about it more, it was like, you know, it's kind of confusing. It's like, what is that? And so, and obviously you can throw your 2 cents in, but the way that I think about it now, it's like subconscious is basically all the programming, as you said, that's in your mind. So all the experiences that you've had in the past, negative or positive, that are now driving your behavior. So anytime you do something, so you mightn't be aware of it. So if you're not aware of it, it's happening at a subconscious level. But a simple example would be when you feel stressed, the first thing that you go and do is start eating loads of food, or use chocolate, or, you know, go and smoke, or, you know, have some alcohol, or you're using that subconsciously as a way to manage the stress that you're feeling. But because you're not consciously aware of it, you don't know how to solve the problem. So the issue is the stress and where the stress is coming from, but you're suppressing it by using food, or, you know, whatever, Xanax or Valium or drugs or whatever it is. So then you never get to it always stays at that subconscious level. So it's only like when you work with someone like yourself or a therapist or someone, and you actually, you know, talk about it and are like, okay, it's actually the alcohol is not the problem. The fact that I'm so stressed is the problem. And where is that coming from? So that's kind of like the easiest way that I think about how to describe something at a subconscious level. But what's your 2 cents in it, or how would you kind of like, you know, explain it to clients?
Okay, so this is what someone told me yesterday. She's brilliant. I'll be doing a podcast and doing some work with her soon over the next few weeks. So watch out for it. She's into like cold water therapy, natural remedies, yoga teacher, breath work, all that kind of thing. She got into this because her partner has got PTSD from being in the military, and a friend of hers committed suicide from the same thing. And there's more soldiers commit suicide more often than not after they come out than they die at war, you know. And we were discussing, you know, the insanity sometimes of the medical profession. Again, there is a place for medicines and natural and pharmaceuticals, but it seems to have like taken over and got out of hand recently. Now, how many doctors do you know that have moved from the mainstream medical profession into natural therapies, healing with food, exercise, breathwork, yoga, cold water therapy? There's quite a lot, isn't there?
Yeah, especially with people who practice functional medicine.
How many doctors do you know that have gone from the natural remedies into mainstream medicine?
Yeah, pretty much zero.
Big fat zero. What does that tell you?
Yeah, it's very obvious.
Another thing. I went into my daughter's school the other day and I asked what they were doing for mindfulness, because she didn't want to go to school. And as soon as she walked, I took her into a violin lesson. As soon as she walked into the violin lesson, I was asking her, do you want me to do some tapping? She's like, no, mommy, I don't. Because she don't want to take it off me. I'm too close. I'm her mum. So it really frustrates me that I can't tap her, and, you know, I tell her to breathe and all the rest of it, and she just rolls her eyes at me. So too close. But I took her into school, and as soon as she walked into a violin lesson, she said, oh, mommy, I've got a sharp pain in my tummy. That pain would have been there. She's not making it up. Her body's been flooded with adrenaline and cortisol, a stress hormone, and it probably shut off her digestive system, and she's feeling tightening in that area, right? So when I asked the teacher, what mindfulness are you doing? It was crickets. Why do we go to school? We go to school to learn. What's the most important thing we need in life to be able to self-regulate and self-soothe and not detach our mind from our body? We need to go inward. But she knows what a subordinate coordinate is in English, and she knows things that she will never use in life, like algebra and trigonometry, and I know for a fact she will never use those. But the most important thing is the breath, how to self-regulate, how to self-soothe. And children aren't being taught this. So when they get to our age, you're younger than me, but when they get to be adults, how can they heal themselves? They know to go to the doctor, and the doctor says, okay, well, I'll write you a prescription for some anti-anxiety tablets. There's a few doctors that do refer people to me, but I had one doctor tell me that she wasn't allowed. Like, she used to sneak to me for treatments, but she wasn't allowed. Now, I'm not saying every doctor is like that, but we've got to strip it back and get back to basics. You know, when have you seen a stressed out monk that goes within and meditates every day? You don't see it, because they're Zen-like, because it all comes from here, you know? So you know yourself, if you're nervous, your body's a chemistry set. it will start throwing out hormones for you to handle your fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. We don't run away and we don't fight anymore. We sit in a chair at a laptop. And so the colleague next to us that really gets on our nerves, and all this adrenaline and cortisol and all the stuff, the junk from the past that we haven't remedied and self-soothed because no one's taught us how to do it, we'll either get the sack because we've punched them, or we'll go off on sick. It's because that adrenaline, that cortisol isn't used. It's sat in the body, festering. Now, here's something interesting. I've worked with a lot of women who are in abusive relationships or they've left abusive relationships. Now, the first client that I did for, I helped with, it was an abuse case. Her ex-husband had passed away 10 years prior, but she was still living in fear. And it was almost like she might as well have still been there with him, married. Now, because the subconscious loves familiar, it will keep replaying that. But not just that, the chemicals that your body releases, the hormones to put you in fight or flight to keep you safe, you get addicted to. So this is why a lot of people don't have patience with women that go back to abusive relationships. They're addicted to their own chemicals, but not just that. They're on this roller coaster of getting a hit from adrenaline and cortisol, but not just that. You dig into the past and it's familiar. You start speaking about the family dynamics or relationships they've had before sometimes, and it's familiar. Subconscious loves familiar, and you will keep proving to yourself that this is true, and you will outsource people that are abusive to you to replay what you're trying to remedy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Like what I was thinking is like, you kind of, you're always going to attract the same people if you're engaging in the same behavior. So
Yeah.
it's like, if you, I don't know, for example, if you meet somebody, let's say jujitsu or yoga or at a meditation retreat, the type of, quality relationship you're going to have with that person versus on a all weekend bender in Ibiza, it's like two different types of people. There's nothing wrong with either one, but it's like realistically the people that you're doing mindful things with, it's that type of relationship is going to be so much different in most cases, obviously not all, but yeah. So it's like you're attracting a different type of person based on what you're doing essentially.
And it's interesting you bringing up relationships because they're our biggest teacher. So what's ever unresolved in you, it'll be reflected in your relationship, definitely. So, and we also make other people responsible for healing us, filling a void, our happiness, and it's absolutely not, and it's so difficult to keep those boundaries within relationships, and it's about two people coming together and holding each other maybe a little bit accountable and healing together, growing together, instead of you fix me. If you're walking around with a massive cut on your arm and you're bleeding, it's not fair to take someone else's hand and put it on your wound to stop the bleeding. Same analogy that goes for the pharmaceutical industry. You could put a big plaster, but it needs more than that. It needs cleaning out. It needs healing and repairing, and you'd rest the arm, wouldn't you? Mm-hmm. You'd rest it, you'd heal it, you'd repair it. You wouldn't like carry on in your everyday life and just leave that band-aid, blood pouring out all over, looking for someone else to help you. You've got to sort it yourself.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's like the healing level, whereas you would self-soothe, remedy, work on yourself, and the work's lifelong. It's never finished. And also not being codependent on someone to fix it for you.
Yeah, definitely. I see a lot of people who are in relationships like that, and it's like it's the same story and the same issues just repeating itself constantly.
Same romantic partner, different name.
Yeah, or the same person who they've got back with just again and again and again, but it's constantly the same issues.
Yeah, but everyone comes into your life to teach you something,
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's really interesting with the pharmaceutical industry of how, I completely agree with you. Like some people 100% do a lot better with support from certain drugs, and
Mhm.
that's fine. But I think the underlying issue for a lot of people is just a quick fix mindset of like, oh yeah, I'll just take this pill and that'll solve it, and I don't need to do anything. But it's like you said, it's like you're literally putting a band-aid over an open wound. It's
Yeah.
not solving the issue, it's just further, pushing it down the line until it develops into something else.
It's about informed choice and informed consent as well, I believe, because a doctor will write you a prescription, or they will refer you to a consultant to maybe have surgery. I had a lady in yesterday, and she's been with me years. She's a reflexology client that she comes every now and again. Now, she has had severe psoriasis on her hands and feet for some time now. And every week I try and convert her into natural therapies and natural remedies and X, Y, and Z. And there's loads of other health issues going on top of that. And it's starting to become visible and noticeable. So I'm trying to plant seeds, X, Y, and Z. And I said, look, can I give you a colleague's number? Who's a naturopath, clinical nutritionist, homeopath, blah, 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 blah. And I just thought, I'm wasting my time. She's happy to go down the medical route. That's absolutely fine. But the consultant was going to give a medication to suppress her immune system to heal the psoriasis, because the psoriasis was attacking her body. And I literally just looked at her and started to laugh. And I said, what? And I said to her, and she said, oh, and they've told me that I'm more susceptible to get colds and flu. And I'm like, where did the common sense go? What if we boosted your immunity, boosted your immune system, and got you on an anti-inflammatory diet, and we looked at your lifestyle, and we got you meditating, using essential oils, coming for reflexology more often, and find out where this psoriasis came from? Let's regress you in hypnosis.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I know one guy who does a lot of like functional medicine and nutrition work, and he has examples of clients that he's worked with, and their psoriasis or any of their skin conditions have, for the most part, completely gone. And the issue underlying it was, a gut health issue. And then most likely what was causing the gut health issue was something to do with stress or some type of, trauma or something that's gone on in the past. So I think the model is just like the wrong way around. It's like the foundation of your health is literally, sleep, movement, water, food, stress management, self-care, know how to manage, different emotions when they pop up. And then once you've done all of that and all those boxes are ticked and your issue still isn't solved, then yeah, like look into getting some medication of some type. But like nearly everybody that I've worked with, it's always just the basic things that they're not doing right. It's like, okay, you literally have been getting 6 hours of sleep for the last 10 years. You've nearly been sleep deprived for the last 10 years. Like your energy is, 4 out of 10. I'm not surprised, because you've literally been recharging your batteries halfway every night. And now, like, I mean, that's what do you expect to happen? It's like, so if you get the basics right, like it solves a lot of issues, which is pretty amazing.
So for example, like I was up at 5:45 this morning, breath work first of all, meditation, and I was actually listening to myself, because I was just listening to a recording to make sure that I got it nailed down. So I was listening to my own voice. So meditation, guided meditation. I then walk the dog on the park in the morning sun, because if we get exposed to sun at certain times of the day, it gives us enough sunscreen naturally for the rest up till 2 PM, I think it is. So and then came home, had a cold shower, did some journaling, did some thought work, and that's why I feel amazing today. If I'd have slept in till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, not done my food prep, not done those things, all the chaos in the mind would still be there. I probably would have been late for work. I wouldn't have read my notes for my clients today. I would have been chaotic. I would have been so stressed. I might have come home from work and gone, oh, I need to eat something. I need to drink something. I need to do this. It's all within us. But there is, like I say, it all has got to come back to everything we need, we have, is available to us. We've just never been taught it. And we are in this society that wants a quick fix. You know, people come here and I can tell the people that are fully invested when they come and see me. Some people just come, give me a load of money and go fix me. And I say, right, if you do everything that I tell you to do, you will be, think, feel, and do like a completely different person in 5 weeks. It's 5 weeks of your life. That's all I'm asking for. But I know that if they do everything I tell them to do, they will continue. This is a springboard, this 5 weeks. They will feel amazing, right? The people that come and sit here and whinge and moan and don't do what they're told to do, they want me to fix them, they'll get results, the light come in, but the transformation isn't as powerful. They will still go around wanting everyone to fix them, regardless of what comes up next. So they don't come to me and they're transformed into a different person and no bumps in the road ever in their life again. When they come, I give them the tools to move forward in life that they can self-soothe themselves. I hardly ever see a repeat client after 5 weeks.
Nice.
Now and again, I'll get someone come back, maybe a few years down the line, maybe they've had a relationship breakup and they need just a bit of a support, whatever. But I hardly ever see anyone again after 5 weeks.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. It's obviously working extremely well. And, you know, I can really tell how in depth you go, which is amazing. And, you know, managing when it comes to like self-soothing and stuff like that, just kind of reminds me how I had a huge realization back in like October or November. And I was like, oh shit, I'm actually an emotional eater. And I have been like pretty much my whole life. And I had never realized it. So it was happening, you know, at that subconscious level. But because I'd been doing a lot more, you know, therapy and journaling and actually paying attention to, you know, how I'm feeling and stuff like that, I had that realization. And I think I got away with it for so long because for the last 11 years, I've been really consistent with training and, you know, getting stronger and always focusing on something to do, you know, with fitness. And
what were you eating? What were you eating? What was your trigger food?
So I wouldn't say it was a trigger food, but it's like usually like an example, when I was living in Sicily, I was feeling like pretty depressed for a couple of weeks. And so I was literally making a huge big bowl of like spaghetti bolognese and like passata and garlic and typical, you know, Italian, you know, bolognese dish. So that was like my comfort food that I was eating at the time. But then after a while, I realized like, oh yeah, I'm actually eating all of that because I feel depressed and feel a bit lonely and feel kind of stressed out a bit. So that was a huge thing for me. And I've obviously, same as anyone else, I've done it in the past with chocolate and jellies and sweets. So, you know, it's both sweet and savory food, but that hasn't happened at all the last few months now, because when I feel that stress level building, I'm like, okay, I know what I can do.
Yeah. So there's a few different reasons for this. The first one is the food industry isn't stupid. It's quite sinister. Even with kids' cereals, they get together to have meetings to make food addictive. So the ratio to the carb and fat, you all know this, they get it absolutely perfect. Wrap it up in beautiful presentation of a packet. And also when we're watching TV, listening to the radio, walking around doing our daily business, we're slipping in and out of hypnosis all day long. When we're watching TV, we're in hypnosis. What's the perfect opportunity to sell to people when they're in hypnosis, when the subconscious mind's wide open, they're relaxed? There's music with binaural beats that engage the subconscious in the background, and they sell. So when you're down and depressed, what do you need? You need to outsource or fill the void. And you will maybe in a situation where there's a TV on and your subconscious mind is listening. And that's how the sellers all this stuff, from cars to holidays to, we're in hypnosis a lot of the time, right? That's one reason. And we become addicted because it tastes nice as well. Another reason is when you're first born, what's the first thing when you're handed your baby? It goes onto your boob and you breastfeed or you give it formula. That breast milk will give that baby so much comfort, because being born is really traumatic in the medical system that we live in today. That's a conversation for another day probably, but the way we are birthed these days and in this country isn't how it was designed to be, let's say. So the baby's very stressed, lots of bright lights, you know, sometimes there's medical intervention that happens, and again, there is a place for that. But that baby has been safe and secure and warm and cozy and not heard loud noises or bright lights for 9 months. It comes out into the world and it's pretty traumatic. There's bright lights, there's smells, there's chaos, and it's screaming. My daughter was furious that she'd been pulled out. So I could see in her face that she was really angry. First thing I did, she had the colostrum from me. That is a massive hit of fat, sugar, all the things that she needs. She's going to get comforted because she's in me, warm and cozy like she was in the womb, drinking a highly calorific, amazing drink from her mummy, full of good stuff. So why do you think that everyone snacks on chocolate when they're stressed? Sweets, carbs. We don't go and have an apple when we're stressed, do we?
I mean, there's probably some oddball that does that, but I haven't met them yet.
Well, I do, personally, I do. But if you think that it's learned from the second we're born, we've been given that comfort with a supply of extremely sugary, warm, delicious milk. Mm-hmm. So that's our programming again.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And there's actually in Gabor Mate's newest book, The Myth of Normal, he has a whole chapter talking about the issues of the medical model when it comes to giving birth, and talks about how it happens in other societies and why things are a bit broken, how it's done currently. So, you know, if you want to, I'm not just saying this to you, but anyone, you know, who's watching this or listening to this, that book is like a game changer for, you know, a lot of things that we consider normal in today's society. He goes through a lot of examples of how maybe they're actually not so normal, you know, and things have changed.
If anyone suffers with anxiety, depression, trauma, they should lap him up. He's an absolutely amazing human being, and he says things how they are. Yeah. And he's got ADHD, which again, that just seems to be a word that's flung around so much. And the reason that so much ADHD at the moment is because of trauma, and we can't self-soothe and self-regulate. Again, going back to your emotional intelligence is heightened before your intellectual you know, intelligence, like common sense and stuff. So a baby can't figure out, you know, like, say for example, I've had quite a few children come to me. They're in the teens, maybe early 20s, and they're adopted. Now they have the most amazing family that's taken them on, shown them love, given them an amazing life. I mean, some very opulent families have taken this baby on, and it's a hang up that they have. They've been discarded, they're not wanted and not valued, because that they must be wondering, why did my mum give me up? That's abandonment. And I try and frame it a different way to them, like, it wasn't rejection. Do you know how hard it would have been for that parent to give you up? You know, look at the family you've got now. Thank goodness that did happen, because your poor mum couldn't cope. Believe me, this won't leave her. And we do this a lot in therapy. But again, we're always trying to prove ourselves. We're always made to believe that we're broken. We're all flawed. Of course we're flawed. We're here to learn. But it's about accepting your flaws as well. I remember, and this has stuck with me until recently, really, I always thought there's something wrong with me. And I used to, even from a very young age, I used to go to a lot of therapists. I used to try and heal myself, and it used to frustrate me because I used to pay to go see people And I was more in touch with why I am than they just didn't have the answers for me until I found hypnotherapy. Because for me, going over and over and over with someone and talking about your problems day in, day out, that just creates those neural pathways in the brain and reinforces all your issues. Talking about something that's negative, to me, why would you do that to yourself? You can ring a friend for free, don't pay a therapist, you know? So with me, we have a chat, we use NLP to reframe what they're saying, and then we hit it where it needs remedying. For me, my own opinion, talking therapies are great for realizing why you act the way you are. It's a light bulb moment. But I used to come out of a lot of therapy sessions thinking, well, I feel worse because I do know there's something wrong with me. I just don't know how to fix it. I know why I am the way I am from childhood stuff, from situations in life, but how can I fix this? And I wasn't meditating at the time because I was too young and it wasn't big like it is now. But it can be quite fun to have hypnotherapy, because client I've got in later after this chat, we laughed last session because it was a massive light bulb moment why your knee keeps popping out of a joint. And it was like, oh, that's the reason. And it was completely nothing to do with what the issue she came for, but there was a link. So it's really strange how our brain makes metaphors, how our body speaks to us in the language, but it is all remediable, and it needs to be taught in every school, in every workplace. There needs to be this education. In the NHS, it needs promoting. In every single military unit, you know, I mean, it breaks my heart that these young men are going out and serving their country and think that they're doing the right thing, and they come back with no sense of belonging, with no real idea of like what's just happened to them. They've seen some horrific things and there doesn't seem to be the remedy there, you know, and they were sold on the promise that they were doing the right thing, and then they come out and they're absolutely broken. One of my clients said to me a few weeks ago, he said, you know, like I said, he's seen more friends, he's known more friends take their life than he's seen die in front of him. If you went into a business, or say, for example, you went into Tesco's and did your weekly shopping, and after you came out of Tesco's, you hurt yourself or you did something really destructive, Tesco's would be closed down or someone would be finding out why. But these children at 16 years old can go into these situations. And it's really strange as well. Something that I've noticed with two things I've noticed when I speak to clients that come for a presenting issue, and then they kind of say that they were in Iraq or Afghan or whatever. And a lot of the time, they will not come back for the treatment because they are petrified of what's going to come out. Now, I always use the analogy as a hypnotherapy course with me isn't going into a dark cave, it's going through a tunnel. There's always light there, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. I'm with you the whole time. You know, you don't have to relive it in the way that you think. And, you know, it presents itself, like I said, in different ailments and issues, and your relationships can break down. Nightmares is another one. But, you know, I just see the results, and in some ways I love it, but in some ways I get frustrated because there's not enough therapists that work with the subconscious to help these people out of what they have seen, you know. And another thing I notice, they can cry if their cat dies. They never cry about the experiences that they tell me about when they've been and served their country. It's almost like they've had to numb out, you know. But like, I've been guilty in the past of this, detaching yourself from your body, disassociating, taking a tablet to make things better, actually saying, I wish the goddamn anxiety would bugger off. No, ask the child that's put the anxiety there what they need from you. Parent your child. Like, a friend of mine came for a session the other day because he's split up with his girlfriend, and he's like, this bloody anxiety. I went, no, speak to it nicely. What does it want? What does it need? How would you speak to your young child like that? Because we don't speak to ourselves nicely. And it has an effect on us with our subconscious always being switched on, and how other people treat us as well. You know, if you haven't got self-worth and self-value and self-esteem, that's just an invitation to just get trampled all over. You know, you're no different from anyone else, just the way you think. My daughter the other day, I cringed and I thought, I'm not saying anything. She teaches me a lot. And she looked at herself in the mirror and told me how pretty she was. And I was like, and then I thought, yeah, you are. Earn it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I think it's really powerful when you have healthy boundaries and you know what that looks like, you know. So in your friendships or relationships, like an example would be, you know, you have a certain amount of time carved out just for you to go, you know, do a workout, or, you know, go for a walk, or, you know, go do something by yourself. And that's a good healthy boundary to have, where it's like, this is me time, regardless if I'm in a relationship with you or not. Like you still need to be our own individual people. Or, you know, with your friends, obviously some friends are better influences than others, but it's like, you know, if some of your friends are going out and they want to get absolutely pissed or going mad, having the boundary of being like, I don't mind having a few drinks, but I'm not going to get pissed. I'll have like 2 or 3. I'll do what works for me.
Yeah.
You can do what you want to do, but this is where I'm at, you know. It's like, you can respect that if you want, and if you don't want to, then like, no worries, but that's not what works for me, you know.
Again, we love the familiar, so it's really difficult for humans to see people change, people that they've been familiar with, even destructive. Yeah. It's really, I've got a client and she's transformed her life. She was scared of life. She was scared of everything. She's lost 2.5 stone. She was scared of flying. She was anxious all the time. Her little one was starting to pick up on this, and she's transformed her life. She's now flown abroad. So she's on holiday. She said it was absolutely fine. There was no fear when she got on the plane. Now one of her family members is really struggling with how amazing she's doing, because she doesn't need more. Yeah. And comes on to rescuing as well. Like, I have clients come and they're overgivers, and I'm a rescuer. I'm definitely a rescuer. So I've had to rein it in quite a lot. And I've got to ask myself, I can only help when I'm healed.
Yeah.
Also, rescuing is a sign that we need to be needed. And, you know, rescuing people, it's a sign that we need rescuing ourselves. And we're not responsible for anyone but ourselves and our small children.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we project a lot onto other people, especially I think the most common thing to project is your own shame. So, you know, I made a quick video about this yesterday, but I didn't really go too in depth on it. But there's been a few different people that I've, you know, been working with, and you know, they've mentioned, because we kind of talked about limiting beliefs and like what's actually stopping you from really getting to being the best version of yourself, getting super fit, super strong, feeling really confident. And what's popped up for some people has been what some people have called them in the past. So some people have projected their own shame, and they've called this person fat, overweight, whale, or on the other side of things, you know, anorexic, bulimic, skinny, you know, really horrible things that some people have said. And, you know, all those people who are being mean were essentially projecting their own shame onto, you know, the people then that I've been working with. And so I think it's a powerful thing to know, because when I was like a child or a teenager, when people would be really mean and say nasty things, you just, for me anyway, I've like absorbed that, and it's like, oh, that's who I am. But it's not who I am. It's like, that's just them projecting what they don't like about themselves. Their shit.
True anyway. It's not. Can you ask yourself, is it really true? And half the time it's not true.
Oh no, like it's not, but I think it's just a powerful thing to realize. It's not, you are not the issue. Their shame is the issue, you know.
Happy people that are really happy don't have to be mean. because it's not there. Happy people aren't mean. So when people have had abusive parents, for example, and I have a lot of this, like Guy the other day, he said, I need to forgive my mum that's passed away. Horrific childhood. The abuse was next level. And I said, right, okay, let's go forgive your mum. And this is another one that don't believe in any of this, but I'm getting amazing results. And, you know, when he came out the session, he went, that's the weirdest experience I've ever had in my life. I think it's his third session. And this was online as well as abroad. And he said, Carrie, you won't believe me. He said, I felt someone holding my hand as I was talking to my mum. And I was like, yeah, that happens all the time. So either, again, his brain has put that there, or his mum was here, you know. But going back to something I skipped over, because I do jump around a lot because I get really passionate about talking about this. When I was in college, when I was training to be a reflexologist, I must have been about 18, 19. My tutor was very, very calm, like very softly spoken, very calm. And I had a discussion with her, you know, you're so calm. And I'm the opposite. I'm like, got bags of energy. I'm bouncing around all over. I'm a bit ADHD, I think. And, you know, she said, but under the surface, I'm like a duck, you know. And so she did say something to me that stuck with me, and I've used it to my advantage. And this is going back to thinking that we need fixing. She said, when you calm down, you will be a really good therapist. And that really cut deep for me as a teenager. And I carried that for years. And I've turned it around. Now I know how to use this to make it work for me. If I didn't have the energy I had, I wouldn't be able to get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock and do all the things. I wouldn't be able to be a single mom. I wouldn't be able to be dependable as a friend, a family member. I wouldn't be able to have the capacity to do all the things that I do. I wouldn't be able to serve as many clients as I do. I mean, when I've told a colleague how many clients I can see in a week, boom, 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 she's like, oh my God. But because I've used that flaw that she saw as a strength, you know, there is not another you. So why don't you use your flaws that people point out as strengths? Why don't you use your crazy, chaotic mind to fill your schedule full of stuff, but have the self-care there as well to back up and increase your stamina and increase your grit and the warrior in you to basically get stuff done? So I'm glad that I'm hyper. I'm glad that I'm all over the place. And I'm glad I'm a bit crazy ADHD, because I need to get shit done. I'm a busy single working mum. Nice. You know, so don't take things personally. Again, that might be her projection. She might have wanted to be more crazy.
Exactly.
But actually, that lady, unfortunately, has had cancer 3 times because she's probably internalized everything. You know, but she's, bless her, she's healed herself with natural remedies, with food, with meditation. She's healed her cancer 3 times. So that's where her strength comes in, of probably being that much quieter and calmer. But I externalize everything. If I've got a problem, like 2 of my friends, I chew their ear off. I'm a negative Nelly. They give me a window and then they give me a kick up the ass and say, what do you do for a living again? Give your head a shake, you know, and we're all human, but a whinging window is great. And even writing it down, that activates a certain part of the brain to dump your shit out of your body onto paper. And when you read it back, after a week, you learn, oh my God, that completely shifted. You have an argument with someone and it keeps you awake all night and it festers, brings up loads of stuff from the past and kicks your nervous system off and your adrenaline and cortisol again. You dump it on paper, it's out your body, it's done, it's dusted, you articulate what you want to say to that person and you sleep.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I think you had it spot on there. The way she was projecting her own shame or something that she didn't like about herself was that she probably wanted the energy that you had. And so then that was kind of triggering her to you know, to put you down a little bit, you know. But that's an amazing, you know, gift that you have. And you know, I was gonna just go back quickly to, because we're a little bit over time. I know you need to go soon. But I was just going to come back to what you said about kind of prioritizing yourself. It's like, so that's something I see with so many people. It's like you can't pour from an empty cup. So it's like when you've got work and your kids and your extended family or your partner or whatever, and maybe your house or whatever, and you've got all this stuff in front of you and you're literally the bottom of the list, then that just like manifests itself into more stress and
Yeah.
huge impact. So I'm constantly saying to people that I'm working with, like, let's flip that around and put you number one and everybody else below that. And that's not being selfish. That's you taking care of yourself is you being able to take care of everything else better.
We had a discussion about this when you came on my platform. As women, we seem to think it's great to wear this badge that we're worn out and we do all the things. We haven't done ourselves any favors by doing all the things, by earning the money, looking good, looking after the kids, doing the DIY, cooking the meals. We've got to be all things because that's what's expected of us, right? Okay. And I'm not saying this is in every situation, but women hold the house together. If the woman in the house isn't happy, doesn't everyone know about it? You can tell the time of the month, everything kicks off. And if you've got more than one female in the house, it's not good. But you put the self-care in place and the self-soothing, the little rituals and the practices, whatever works for you. And literally, I do like 5-minute rituals. I do like maybe a 5-minute workout, 5-minute breath work, 5-minute cold shower, because I won't fit it in otherwise. And it get boring, me sat meditating for an hour. That would just absolutely drive me insane. But women wear this badge of I'm worn out and I put everyone before me. That I can see that turning. The way that drinking a bottle of wine every night, like mummy juice, was cool a few years ago. 9 times out of 10, my clients don't drink. They've stopped drinking. And I think that's becoming the new cool. The new cool is the breath work, is the cold water therapy, is the being sober. That is the new cool of putting you first. That's a better example for our children. A monkey see, monkey do. I can't tell my daughter she's not allowed nails on and she's not allowed makeup on because she's seen me do it. So I've got to show a good example so she becomes what I am. Like, I can self-soothe. I've got all the tools. I'm not perfect. Like I said yesterday, I said something that wasn't really acceptable. But next time I do better. But I want her to see how she can take control of herself so she doesn't grow up wanting anyone outside of herself to fix her. And she has strong, healthy boundaries in place, which my daughter definitely does. She's the opposite to me.
Nice. No, that's amazing to hear. And I'm sure we could literally, talk for hours and
Hours.
Really briefly just covered some topics, but we could definitely, organize another, podcast for future at some point if you want. But just before we finish up, for anyone who's watching or listening, where is the best place to get in touch with you?
Okay, so I've got a website, carrieswain.com. You can book a free half-hour consultation with me there to discuss anything that you would like help with. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I've just discovered TikTok, so I'm quite enjoying that at the moment. So LinkedIn I don't do much on, but yeah, just shoot me a message on any of those platforms. But YouTube as well, I'm trying to do a little bit on there. And there's some meditations on there as well if anyone wants to go check out. Some free content-free meditations. There's a sleep one, a relaxation one, and an anti-anxiety one. So there's plenty out there. And I'm developing an online course at the moment to do some like group work, so people can work in an online course too. So yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, no, that's really cool. And yeah, we can have a quick chat after, but I'll end the recording now. And yeah, really looking forward to speaking again in future. And so much.
Thank you for having me.